There we go. All right. Now we're off and running.
There
All
we go.
right. So again, so this is a lunch and learn that I used to do at companies to try to get business from individuals and also get my foot in the door with HR departments. And so I always tried to limit it to companies that had like 50 people, 50, 75 people, something like that. And you can get a list like that from any chamber of commerce in the area that you're in. And it comes in very handy for you as an agent to help people if you farm an area or if you live in a certain neighborhood and you like to farm that neighborhood. This is a great way to get your foot in the door with a lot of the people that live in the neighborhood, and it'll spread when you start helping them get their taxes down. So there are several things that if we're going to be advising people and helping them, pull their comps and things like that to help them protest their taxes, there are certain things that we need to know. And so I've protested a lot of taxes over the years and helped a lot of people do it. Sometimes I would go in their place, but most of the time I just kind of armed them. What one of my brokers used to call loading their lips, that I used to give them the information that they needed to be able to protest it on their own. And more often than not, it was pretty successful. And so, like I says, it's a great service that you can provide. It doesn't take you a whole lot of time to get information together for them, but they do not understand as much as you do, especially when it comes to things like property taxes and things like that. So this is a great way to show your expertise. It's to show your ability to help them, not only in this case, but whatever else they want to do as far as listing or selling or buying or whatever. And like I said, I've had great luck with this in the past. It's really something that has gone extremely well for me. More than happy to share my experience with you and the things that have worked for me and the things that I have learned over time. And I'd say probably I've protested on my own property, every single property I've ever owned, and also probably helped, I'm going to say probably close to 250 other people.
Wow.
over the years. So I've done a lot of this. It became a process for me. At the beginning of every year, I just sent out the same information and sent them a copy of their homestead exemption. They probably got a copy of that when they closed. They lose their closing documents, and so this is a good way to help them. And some things have changed, because it used to be you could not claim your homestead exemption for taxes until after January the 1st. Now you can claim it anytime. So some things have changed a little bit, and I pulled those things out because they just don't, they're just not the same anymore. So there are 3 deadlines that we have to make sure that we remember. If I'm going to protest homesteaded property, then the deadline to send in the protest form is April the 30th. If it's non-homesteaded property, including commercial or anything like that, then the deadline is May 15th. And of course, there are times where they have not finished their part, where they have sent out that little postcard that tells the homeowner what their assessed value is going to be. And of course, the assessed value is what the property taxes are based on. It's not market value. It's just whatever number they came up with to use as a basis for taxes. And so, of course, the formula, they take assessed value, they multiply it by the tax rate, and then that is the property tax before any kind of exemptions or anything like that. So if they've been slow, which happens a lot, if they are slow in getting that assessed value out to the homeowner, then it has 30 days after the district sends that valuation out. And of course, it's not when you receive it. If you look at the postcard, there's a date of when they sent it. It's 30 days from that date. So, of course, if the mail is slow, you may only have really 10 or 15 days. You've got to watch that date. It's not from when you receive it in the mail. It's from when they said they sent it out. So you've got to really watch that close. You do have up to 30 days from that date to go ahead and file your protest if you decide you want to protest. So 3 dates there that could be make sure that they understand, that the homeowner understands, depending on the type of property that they're trying to protest. And like it says, there are definitely some things to keep in mind. And homeowners, most of them really do not understand exactly what it is. They don't even understand the fact that they are paying property taxes in arrears, which means that the property tax that we get, the tax bill that we get in October or November, is actually for that year. It's not for the upcoming year. It's actually for the past year. It's for that year that that we received the notice for. So one of the things we have to keep in mind here, property values increased up to 25 to 30% in 2021 and 12 to 15% in 2022. So the last few years, the taxing authorities have been trying to play catch up with those assessed values. So people may see that their taxes last year went up 10% when their value didn't go up 10%. And it's because of that cap that is artificially on homesteaded property, where it cannot increase more than 10% per year, no matter what the actual value does. Assessed value on homesteaded property cannot increase more than 10%. Now, in the last few years, they have introduced legislation to try to cut that down to where 5%, where no matter what the value does, that the value can't increase more than 5%. And I believe even one other law that was introduced but did not pass cut it down to 2%. So 10% is still where it is right now. So one reason why people have complained so much over the last couple of years is because property values haven't gone up as much as those assessed values. But the reality is it's really the taxing authority trying to play catch up from the years that they couldn't increase it as much as they wanted to. So we actually benefited in those years where maybe the value went up more than it was supposed to in terms of actual value, but the assessed value did not increase as much as it could have. So now they're playing catch up. So probably they need to be warned. The homeowner needs to be warned that the correct number may actually be closer than they think, because over the last couple of years, they've just not been able to really go as far as they wanted to go. So again, they're just trying to play catch up right now. So yeah, that's the first thing. That's the first thing that we have to remember, is that the assessed value is based on what the value of the property was as of January 1st of that year. So when we're pulling comps for the homeowner to help them protest their taxes, anything that closed this year, if we were doing it for this year, anything that closed this year is not applicable. It's the last 6 months of last year that they're basing the value on. So the assessed value is based on January the 1st of that tax year. So anything that closed after January the 1st should not be applicable. And I have caught the taxing authorities several times using numbers from that current year when they shouldn't be using them at all. And when you point that out, then of course they understand, they know it, but sometimes they don't, they think that maybe whoever's protesting doesn't know. So for tax year 2025, comparable sales from this year just wouldn't apply. We would want to pull comps from the last 6 months of last year. If there aren't any, or if there are very few, then we just have to try to work with whatever we've got. But if we can't come up with them, neither can they. We need to remember that the taxing authority, the appraisal districts, have access to our MLS. They have access to our sold information just like we do. And they use the same information we do. They use everything that they use. They come straight out of MLS. Second thing we need to remember, tell the homeowner, don't use square footage as the basis for your protest, unless it's really substantial. If it's 100 square feet, 200, 300 square feet, then yeah, absolutely, because it will make a difference. But if we're talking about 50, 75, 60 square feet, it's not even worth doing. Because the appraisal district, true or not, the appraisal district is going to tell them that they don't use square footage as the basis for their taxes. Now, you and I know that's not true. Of course they do. They don't have the manpower to physically go out and measure every property. So they're trying to head that argument off. They're saying, sorry, that doesn't apply. That's not what we use as a basis. So if that's your argument, sorry, it's not going to go anywhere. If you want to use square footage, you have an appraiser come out and measure it for you and put it on a form and sign it. They'll pay attention to that. They'll pay attention to that much more than anything else. An appraiser has actually come out and not appraised property, but measured the property, and they'll take a look at that. Still might not be enough, but it's the best that you can.
Hey, Don, Catherine's got a question in the chat. Says, aren't they using something called a tabletop appraisal amount?
Yes, they have their own algorithm, they have their own product that they use to calculate that, and I guarantee you square footage comes into play, because if you go and look in a neighborhood or a subdivision and you start looking at price per square foot or what they have for assessed value, unless they have some other feature that throws it off one way or another, it's going to be really within a dollar or two of each other. So yeah.
Yep.
And that's true. It's certainly not market value. Right.
And Don, I'm surprised that more taxing authorities don't use the AVMs, the automated valuation ones, that pull aggregated data like Redfin or Zillow or something like that does.
I'm wondering if maybe as time goes on, they may put more faith in those. I think some of the problem is, at least here in Texas, is the fact that we're a non-disclosure state. And so how do those products get their information, that they don't actually have actual sales prices unless they have access to our MLS. And so, what are they working from? And I think maybe as time goes on, yeah, maybe so.
Yep.
Third thing, tell them something they don't know. It says you tend to have a better shot at getting reduction if you can bring something to their attention that they're not aware of, something that gives them the ability to lower the value and still be able to save face. Say, oh, well, now that you've brought that to our attention, we weren't aware of that. Because, whoever their appraiser is that they pull in, if you end up going to the ARB, to the appraisal review board, then they bring in the appraiser who actually supposedly is the one who assessed the value of that property to back up their numbers. You've got really three levels of protest. And the first one is one that started during COVID, and they just never took it away, where you can just ask them to review it. You can send in a request to have them review it. And sometimes that'll get you what you want. The second one is where you actually physically go down there and you meet with a representative from the appraisal district. And it's not the review board, it's step one. My experience has been, and I don't have anything to confirm this, I'm just telling you what my experience has been, that individual that you meet with, that representative from the appraisal district, I've never seen them able to go more than 10%. If I'm trying to get more than 10% of a reduction, they don't seem to be able to go any further than that. I can get that a lot of times, but if I want more than that, then I can't get it. I'm going to have to go to the appraisal review board, and they need to be prepared for that. And they need to be prepared to go right then and there, because that's a lot of times that's what they're going to do. They're going to say, okay, well, we can't come to an agreement here. Let's go ahead and send you to the ARB and you can do it there. And so if you're not really prepared, then that's going to really hold you back on being able to get what you want to. So if you use something about the condition of the property, if that's going to be the basis that I have this issue or I have that issue, there is a big beware sign that needs to go along with that. The information that they provide to the appraisal district becomes public information. If they're going to use condition of the home to reduce the value, it could come back and bite them later on. If the property is sold, the information on the seller disclosure can be checked against any tax protest that was done in order to confirm that nothing was left off the disclosure, or to make sure they didn't lie to a government agency. Either way, it can be a huge problem. I have seen that happen in court, where they pulled in information where it was about condition of property, where they pulled in, well, but here 2 years ago, you went and protested your taxes, and this was the reason why. And so why was that not showing up on this seller disclosure? And so it just starts pulling into question whether or not you're actually telling the truth, and one or the other. And the way that the court works, if they can prove you lied one time, you're just a liar. No matter what we're talking about from that point on, you've lost all credibility. So they need to be sure. And there's another part of this too. If the condition is going to be used to reduce the value and the condition is remedied, there's a requirement, to notify the appraisal district that condition no longer exists. So if I'm complaining saying that the value of my property is reduced because my roof leaks and I have this water damage in my property, they may go ahead and give it to you now. But once that roof is replaced and the damage has been repaired, you're supposed to contact them and let them know so they can pull that value back to where it needs to be. Failure to do so could lead to them being able to come back and collect back taxes if they can tell. And if it's something like a roof, they can tell because they have the ability to go back and look and see when they Google Earthed everything or when they took pictures before. So got to watch that one. That one's a major one that they need to understand because most of them just do not understand that at all. And the fifth one, don't tell the appraisal district representative if they think the property is worth the amount that they're assessing at, that you'll sell it to them right now. They hear that all the time. I had one of them tell me that is, we hate hearing that. It's like people come in and they think that they're the first one to have ever thought of that. And so they say, look, if you think my property is worth that, here, I'll sell it to you for that right now. They don't like it. Don't use that one.
Catherine has a question.
Oh, okay. What was it? I didn't see it.
She had her hand up. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine. You're muted. Yeah.
He wasn't going to let me unmute there.
There you are.
Gave me a hard time. I just wanted to bring out that if you example, like when we had the storms that just totally wiped away Crystal Beach, and those people had to rebuild. And if they did that and built a bigger house than they had before, if they don't report that to the appraisal district, a few years down the road, they got to pay all those back taxes. And our agents need to be aware any additions or things like that that are put on really need to be updated with the appraisal district right after it's done, instead of waiting to blow up on them after a few years. I just wanted to point that out.
You're right. And anytime there's any change, any type of change to the property at all, adding on a room, putting in a pool, anything like that, all of that is supposed to be reported to the appraisal district, no matter what the change is. And you're right. And that, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it really did. It brought up one other thing, that when we do have a hurricane or something like that come through, sometimes they will automatically reduce the value for a little while in a certain area, wherever the damage was greatest. They may automatically go ahead and reduce the assessed value for a while, and then go ahead and start bringing it back up, maybe the following year or something like that. I've seen that happen before too. Happened during Harvey, happened last year. After Beryl, some properties actually had a reduced assessed value this year because of that. So, but that's going to be a temporary thing. But yeah, sometimes they will do that automatically just based on whatever the thing is that happened. But anytime there's any change, you're right. Anytime there's any change at all, there is a requirement to let the appraisal district know. Just like if it's going to reduce the value or if it's going to increase the value, it's still a requirement to let them know. So no matter what. And then that one back to that one. I guess I thought I saw another hand. I guess not. So. And this, Elena actually put this on our Facebook page the other day, and I thought it was, it's funny. It's one of the very first things that I got when I first got in the business, and it's kind of stuck for years and years and years and years. It's how the different people involved in a real estate transaction look at your property. And of course, when it comes to the taxing side of it, that they go as high as they can. But somebody told me one time that every year what they really try to do is that they try to keep the assessed value just a little bit below what they consider actual market value to be, to try and cut down on the number of protests. And they use the number of 95%. that a lot of times that they will say that if we think the market value is actually whatever number, that they'll come off that just a little bit, just to try to head off a lot of the protests that that could happen, but they feel like that it's better that way. I have actually seen situations where people went in and they ended up raising. That's the risk for them, is that sometimes they'll actually go up on the assessed value after they have had a chance. You've pulled it, you've drawn it to their attention where you're doing the protest on this piece of property. And sometimes they do actually send somebody out to take a look at it, and they see, okay, you've added this or you've added that, and we didn't even have that. So they actually went up on the assessed value. So there is a bit of a risk. And of course, for us in the business, we have to make sure that we understand that assessed value and market value just truly are not the same thing. Besides it being assessed value being artificially manipulated by state government saying that it can't increase more than a certain amount, the unfortunate part for us is that that number, the assessed value number, is a matter of public record. And every buyer, almost every buyer, goes and looks at that. So in MLS, they may see a property that's listed for $450,000, but then they go and they look at the taxing authority's number, the appraisal district's number, and they see it at 410 or something like that, and they go, that seller, what's that seller thinking? You know, they're just trying to get way too much for their property, and that's not necessarily true. So for us, it's sometimes it's a bit of de-education before we can educate them. Then we have to make sure they understand that those two numbers are not the same thing. There's a lot of different ways of calculating value, and maybe this kind of is one of the ways of demonstrating that, is that there's a lot of different types of value, a lot of different numbers depending on who it is that's looking at the property. Value, just like beauty, in the eyes of the beholder. So. All right, I think that's what I got there.
I love it. Yeah, the great thing about this is you can use this as a tool for your clients for serving them every year. Not only do you send them a closing statement, but you follow up and say, "Have you done this yet?" Or any people that are thinking about it, right? So you can use this in a way to prospect as well, right?
Yep. And I saw Catherine had something. I didn't see what it said. It went away. Let me go back to chat. You use a program to run it across the whole country and then go and make changes individually. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think real estate values are too local. I think they would have to do so much changing if they tried to make some generic thing for the entire country. I think there's just too many changes.
No, Don, the county.
Oh, the county. Oh, county.
Yeah.
Across the county.
And here's what I'm expecting. With AI, I'm expecting this to get
probably, yeah, maybe inside of a county. Yeah, maybe so. That I think whatever algorithm they use, yeah, probably so, or maybe. I mean,
because they're not going to go touch all them files.
Oh no, no. No, they have their program that they run, and I don't know if they have a different one maybe for different parts of the county, or if they do one individual one for the entire county and then start making their changes that way. But even Harris County, from one part of the county to the other, there could be huge differences. So, you know, I don't know if they may use the same program, but they may plug different data in.
Exactly.
They've
probably got a big bunch of if then this statements. But the thing is what I'm saying is something that's going to flag it to be touched individually is going to be not the norm, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yeah. I do. I agree with that. That's for sure.
When I was talking to the head of the appraisal department for Harris County, he said it's like they have 100 appraisers on staff, assessors, if you will. You know, and you think about that as a lot, then you think about how big Houston is. It's not a lot. And how big Harris County is. Like, oh, so there's got to be a whole lot of assistance going on. So yeah.
And of course there are companies out there that they can hire, the homeowner can hire to help them protest their taxes. The majority of those companies, my understanding is they charge somewhere between 1/3 and about 40% of whatever the savings is. Those are the numbers that I've heard before. but it's something they can do on their own. They're all using the same comps. So, yeah. I've seen homeowners who actually have gone to the expense of hiring an appraiser to get an appraisal. And if they do that, then I have never seen a situation where the appraisal district will not pay attention to that appraisal. I've never seen that situation. If they see that an actual appraiser went out and looked at that property, unless they see something in the appraisal itself that doesn't make sense, they will defer to. I've seen them defer to that a lot.
Interesting. So maybe $1,000 is money well spent in some cases.
Maybe so, depending on how much we're trying to get,
Right.
So the other good thing to talk to homeowners about right now is, if you're talking to them right now, is what's happening in November during the election of November, where our homestead exemption for homesteaded property has increased from 100,000 to 140. And then another one that we have to vote on is that for people over 65, it goes up to 200,000. So those are definitely some things that that if you want to be talking to homeowners right now, those are good things to be letting them know is coming down the pike. And also business appraisals, that there's going to be a huge, if it passes, there's going to be a huge exemption for business property, which can benefit all of us or all of you who are independent contractors out there, and you get your personal property tax bill every year. They're talking about doing an exemption. I think, if I remember right, the exemption goes up from like 2,500 to 125,000. And so
I think it's more than that.
Is it 250?
I think it's 250.
Yeah. I thought 250 just sounded like too much. And
I know. I think it's 250.
I thought I'm with you. I think it actually is 250, but it's just such a huge increase that we probably are not going to have much in the way of personal property taxes at all. So that's a good thing. I saw a hand go up. Beatrice, go ahead. You're muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please rephrase the homestead that is going to probably change in November?
Okay. Well, there are three things that have to be voted on. The first one is to raise the homestead exemption from 100,000 to 140,000. So that would mean if your house is valued at $400,000, that right now, because of the homestead exemption, it's valued for tax purposes, it's actually valued at 300. So there's a $100,000 exemption already, but we have the ability to vote in November to get another $40,000 exemption. So your $400,000 property is now going to be evaluated as if it was only worth $260,000. So that brings the property taxes way down. That's the first one. The second one is for people over 65. They get another $60,000 exemption to where now their $400,000 property is assessed at $200,000. So it would actually cut those taxes in half. And really, the homestead exemption applies to school taxes. It applies to the school district taxes. Doesn't apply to county, doesn't apply to city, doesn't apply to water district, only applies to school. So,
Got it.
But school is usually the largest taxing authority anyway, unless you're in the newer neighborhood and maybe the mud might be. And then the third thing they're voting on is for personal property exemption, to where the assessed value of your personal property doesn't even happen until you've got at least $250,000 of business property. I've been saying personal property, but business property.
Business property. Okay. So if someone asks me, okay, explain me how the homestead works. So if they bought a house for 300 and we already have an exemption for 100,000, are they paying taxes on the 200 or the 300?
School taxes. School taxes on 200.
The school taxes on 200, and the rest they pay taxes on the 300.
It depends on what the other taxing authorities do. Some taxes, like county, Harris County, for example, Harris County, for example, has a 20% reduction on homesteaded property. So you just have to look at each taxing authority and see whether or not they have any kind of homestead exemption. The vast majority of water districts have no homestead exemption.
Right.
Most of them
Right.
don't. But the school, that's mandated. That's what we're voting on in November is for school taxes. Now, some school taxes even go above and beyond that. Sci-Fair, for example, Sci-Fair ISD gives you that required exemption, and then they take an additional 20% off. So, and they vote on every single year. So some school districts go above and beyond, but this is a minimum that every school district has to, on homesteaded property, reduce the assessed value right now by $100,000 and then tax you based on that new number. And then if it goes through in November, it'll be 140,000 less. And if you're over 65, it'd be 200,000 less.
Thank you.
Sure.
Machine. Go ahead, Machine.
You're muted, so unmute yourself.
Hello,
Hey.
good morning. Good morning.
Good
I
morning.
would like you to elaborate a little bit about the 65 and older. The exemption used to be $60,000 and now they are going to raise it to $200,000, right? Am I understanding you properly?
It's an additional 60,000.
Oh,
If the 140 goes through for 65 and older, it'd be an additional 60,000 off the assessed value.
so the total will become $200,000.
If it's a $400,000 value, yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then when you are 65 and older, the property tax is a flat rate, right? 10% of the value or something like that. Would you please elaborate on that?
I'm getting a little bit of overlap. Beatrice, could you mute yourself because we're getting a little bit of background noise or conversation from there. And I'm getting two conversations together. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
Sure. The property tax for 65 and older is not a flat rate.
It's not a flat rate. No, it's just whatever your assessed value is minus 200,000.
All right. And then based on that, what percentage the 65 and older they are going to pay? The regular as anybody else?
The tax rate will remain the same. What brings the taxes down is that tax rate times assessed value is what gives you your taxes. Assessed value is what they're dropping. Tax rate will remain the same.
Thank you. And then with the decrease of school district tax, maybe the tax rate will come down.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
And I'm glad you said that, because to me, that's always been the argument is against where they talk about where your homestead assessed value can't raise more than 10% per year, bringing it down to 5% or bringing it down to 2%. You know, the amount that they're going to collect in taxes is based on their budget, and their budget was created the year before. They need the amount of money they need. So if you don't allow at least the assessed value to increase a certain amount, they're still going to need the same amount of money. How are they going to get there? They're going to raise the tax rate.
Of
The
course.
tax rate's going to go up. And when you, like you said, if we're limiting it to 2% this year, 2% next year, sooner or later, you're going to get there. They're not going to lower the tax rate to compensate for that. So they just are collecting the same amount of money quicker. And then it's going to end up being more when the assessed value gets there. So yeah, unfortunately, that tax rate's not gonna come down. The only tax rate, I will say this, the only tax rate I've ever seen come down are water districts, mud districts. As mud districts, especially a brand new one, a brand new mud district will have a very high rate because there are fewer homes for it to be divided among. But as that neighborhood grows and grows and grows, then the tax rate on a mud district, the rate will actually drop. And then at some point, once those bonds are paid off, then it's just maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of water districts out there now that are 30 years of age or older, where the actual tax rate is like 18 cents per hundred, 24 cents per hundred, where now it's just maintenance. So I will say that water district rates, I have seen water district rates actually drop, but not school, not county, not city usually, but water district rates do as they get more and more houses there. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
sure. Catherine, go ahead.
I'm surprised that they do the school tax for over 65. Because, I mean, I guess you can still have kids at 65, but
That's been the complaint for years and
Yes.
years and years, is that why should I have to pay any school taxes at all? I don't have kids there.
right. And I mean, it's crazy because you're affected whenever they're
Yeah, I get it, but it is what it is. I hate water. I don't drink water. Why do I have to pay mud district taxes?
oh yeah, I agree, Don. Because those mud taxes are rough. A lot of people request, I want a house, but I don't want it in a mud district.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yep. Hey, Jana, what you got?
Hey, yeah, well, a lot of grandparents are raising their grandkids.
That's true
Well,
too.
that's probably why they keep it that way. I would think. I'm just saying.
I think they keep it that way because it's just too hard to sort out. I think
We
it'd be
just-
too hard to sort out.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay them. You do. Whose name is the property in? Is it one person over 65? Is it if both people are over 65? You know, you've got those May, December things going on sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you spread out the tax
They don't
burden.
give us any breaks anyway. They should give grandparents breaks that are raising their grandkids.
Hey,
Could that be a point of
grandparents get
contention
breaks. You can get a cup of coffee at Denny's for $1.
Don, would
Yeah.
that be a point of contention that if you didn't have to try to get that removed from your homestead exemption, are you able to do something like that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious.
I've never heard that argument. I guess it'd be interesting but I don't think it's going to be one that'll go anywhere.
They also need the consistent tax base. They can lower the exemptions and whatever to make it there, but they need everybody paying in. It's how they do budgets, right? Number of households, number of tax base. Here's a tax.
You take out a substantial chunk like that tax rate's going to get crazy because again, they've got to have the amount of money they have to have in order to meet their budget. And so you have this total assessed value that's inside of my taxing authority. You've got this total amount of assessed value multiplied by that tax rate to get the budget that we need. And if you start taking out substantial amounts, then that tax rate's going to go crazy. And our tax rate is already, because we don't have a state income tax, our property tax rate is already among the 5 highest in the United States. So, yeah. And of course, they're trying to do something about it. The only concern that I have, and I know that the state has a surplus right now, which gives them the ability to do that. You know, let's not burn through that surplus because then it's gonna double back on us.
I come from a state where there's never a surplus, so I'm glad.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Oh my gosh. Don, thank you. That was awesome, as always.
Happy to do it. And if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to help answer them for you. Or material that the material that I used